Every human being carries within them a version they have never met, a version forged in fire, sharpened in silence, and unshakable in storms. Yet most never reach it, for they stop at the first discomfort, surrender at the first doubt, and retreat when the world whispers, "You can't." But the samurai knew that greatness is not given to the many. It is won by the few who dare to step into the abyss of themselves and return transformed. Miyamoto Musashi, the undefeated warrior of more than 60 duels, taught that strength is not in the sword but in the mind that wields it. To awaken your strongest self is to walk a path where discipline feels like madness, where solitude feels like exile, and where silence feels like a threat. And yet, it is precisely on that narrow path where the indomitable is born. This journey is not about becoming admired, nor about being understood. It is about being feared by your own weaknesses and about conquering them. Today, we will walk with Musashi through the thresholds of the mind to awaken that version of you that the world would rather not see, the one so strong that it unsettles all who approach it. The first step toward awakening strength is recognizing how fragile the human mind is. Most people are enslaved by routine, by fears disguised as caution, by desires disguised as needs. They confuse comfort with happiness, and thus remain prisoners of what weakens them. A fragile mind bends at the first criticism, breaks at the first rejection, and drowns in the first silence. Musashi's wisdom exposes his truth. The enemy is not out there, but within. A man who does not master his mind is defeated even before drawing his sword. And the greatest defeat is to live life without ever confronting one's own fears, one's own illusions, one's own internal chaos. Awakening the strongest version of yourself requires looking into this mirror without turning away. It means understanding that fragility is not destiny, but raw material. Weakness is not an end, but clay to be molded. The warrior acknowledges his fragility, but does not bow to it. He kneads it, shapes it, tempers it until it becomes steel. The metaphor is simple. Glass may appear shiny, but shatters easily. Steel, however, was once fragile iron burned and forged under relentless fire. Thus is a human being who accepts the pain of transformation. He ceases to be glass and becomes unbreakable steel. The world does not understand the one who rises before dawn while others sleep. It does not applaud the one who refuses pleasures for a higher purpose. To the eyes of the many, discipline seems madness, obsession, imbalance. And that is why Musashi warned, the disciplined man will always be called insane by the undisciplined, but in that apparent madness lies hidden power. While the ordinary scatter their energy in distractions, the disciplined gather theirs into one burning point of focus. That is why one man achieves what 1,000 could not, because he dared to be misunderstood. To be labeled as crazy for practicing discipline is a sign that you are walking the right path. In practice, discipline is not a sudden act of heroism, but 1,000 small victories. It is training when the body begs for rest. It is choosing the difficult path when the easy one tempts you. It is remaining silent when vanity craves applause. And it is precisely those invisible battles that shape the strongest version of yourself. Imagine a sword. To the ignorant, it is just a piece of steel. To the warrior, it is life itself, because every mark on its blade is a testimony of resistance. Thus is discipline. A sword forged in solitude, sharp because it endured fire, and frightening because it never betrayed its wielder. In the path of strength, defeat is not the opposite of victory. It is a school of victory. Musashi wrote, "Perceive the things that cannot be seen." The warrior understands that each fall hides a teaching. Each wound carries a lesson. The weak flee from defeat. The strong embrace it, strip it of its illusions, and rise above it. The illusion of the common man is to believe that victory is a straight road. But the truth is that greatness is born in crooked paths, in nights of solitude, in tears shed where no one watches. The strongest version of yourself is not the one that has never fallen, but the one that never remained fallen. Practically, this means daring to fail. It means entering battles knowing you may lose, but also knowing that each loss sharpens your spirit. The samurai did not fear death, because he had already died to his own ego. Likewise, the disciplined mind does not fear failure, because it knows that failure is the chisel that sculpts strength. The metaphor is the mountain. Many desire to reach its peak, But the mountain tests those who climb it with storms, cliffs, and exhaustion. The one who embraces each wound as a lesson becomes a summit itself. Unshakable, eternal, a silent witness of all who dare to challenge it. In a noisy world, silence is terrifying. For many, being alone with their own thoughts is unbearable. Yet Musashi knew silence is a forge where the sharpest mind is born. In silence, illusions scream, fears echo, and desires demand. But if you endure, silence becomes the greatest master, stripping away the unnecessary until only the essential remains. To awaken the strongest version of yourself, you must embrace silence not as emptiness, but as a battlefield. Silence is where you confront the voices that sabotage you, where you disarm the lies you tell yourself, where you learn to stand alone without fear. It is in silence that the mind hardens like steel under the hammer. Practically, this means learning to withdraw from noise, turning off distractions, resisting the need for approval, cultivating the habit of sitting in stillness while the world races. The disciplined man understands that silence is not weakness, but strength in its most primal form. He does not seek applause, for silence has already crowned him. Think of a cave, dark, cold, and intimidating. To the coward, it is a prison. To the warrior, it is a temple. Within it, he meets himself, and in meeting himself, he becomes untouchable. That is why the strongest version of you can only be born in the silence you once feared. Every human being carries illusions, of control, of permanence, of comfort without sacrifice. But Musashi's path was one of burning away illusions until nothing remained but truth. Do not rely on what you see, he warned. The fire of discipline consumes what is false, and what remains is unshakable. To awaken the strongest version of yourself, you must allow the fire to burn. This fire may come as rejection, as solitude, as sacrifice. Each time life removes something from you, it is purifying you. The weak cling to what is leaving. The strong let it burn, knowing that only what is true will remain standing. In practice, this means accepting pain as a sculptor, not fleeing from discomfort, but embracing it as the flame that tempers iron. The warrior does not run from the fire. He steps into it, knowing that the heat that threatens to consume him is the same heat that forges him. The image is clear. A sword shines only because it endured fire. Without fire, it would remain raw iron, dull, and useless. Without the fire of life, you remain ordinary. With it, you awaken as extraordinary, carrying scars that gleam like polished steel. Strength is not born of sudden bursts of energy, but small, invisible acts repeated with devotion. Musashi's discipline was not merely in battles, but in invisible rituals of preparation, observation, and control. He knew that a man's destiny is forged by his habits, for habits sharpen or dull the blade of the mind. Awakening the strongest version of yourself means mastering your daily gestures. It is not the grand decisions alone, but the way you rise, the way you train, the way you resist temptation. A warrior's life is a collection of disciplined habits that, over time, create an edge no one can dull. In practice, this means choosing deliberately. Each morning, each meal, each word spoken is a strike of the hammer shaping your destiny. The weak see habits as burdens. The strong see them as weapons. What you repeat daily becomes who you are, and what you are shapes what you conquer. Picture water dripping upon stone. It seems insignificant, powerless. But over time, it carves deep marks upon the rock. So too do your habits. Each one may seem small, but together, they carve the strongest version of yourself, one who cannot be eroded. Musashi fought more than 60 duels, but the greatest of them all was never against another man. It was against himself. The inner duel is the fiercest because your opponent knows all your weaknesses, your fears, your temptations. And only by conquering yourself can you ever conquer the world. The weak believe that enemies are external, the critic, the rival, the betrayer. But the strongest version of you knows that the real enemy is the self that doubts, the self that delays, the self that compromises. Every day is a duel between the man you are and the man you could be. In practice, this duel is fought in silence. When no one is watching, when no applause is given, when only you know whether you resisted or surrendered. Winning this invisible battle is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. And the truth is, If you cannot conquer yourself, no other victory matters. The metaphor is the mirror. To the undisciplined, it shows only the surface. To the warrior, it reveals the enemy within. And when he slays at reflection, he emerges not as a shadow of himself, but as his strongest, most unshakable version. In modern culture, solitude is seen as emptiness, but for the samurai, it was sacred ground. Musashi spent years in isolation, not out of weakness, but by choice. He understood that the mind only reveals its true structure when distanced from noise. Prolonged silence is not absence, it is distilled presence. Today's world pushes us into constant distractions, notifications, comparisons, fabricated desires. Yet a strong mind is formed when it learns to remain alone without fleeing from itself. Disciplined solitude is the invisible hammer that molds character. It is in silence that unbreakable decisions are born, not in the voices of the crowd. In practice, this may mean carving out daily moments of withdrawal, even amidst routine. 10 minutes of total stillness are enough to train the mind not to run from itself. Over time, this discipline expands, and the warrior becomes capable of carrying his own presence as a shield against dispersion. The metaphor is the dark cave. The common man fears entering. The samurai steps inside and discovers the darkness was only a mirror. He who endures solitude learns to govern his inner world, and he who governs within fears no enemy without. The samurai did not wear armor only to protect against swords, but as a reminder of responsibility. Every plate, every knot, every strap was a burden, but a chosen burden. To awaken the strongest version of yourself is to wear an invisible armor. Discipline, honor, coherence. Heavy, yes, but it dignifies the one who carries it. The weak avoid responsibilities, wanting freedom without cost. The strong embrace the weight of their invisible armor because they know that responsibility is not a prison, but a shield. The man who runs from burdens remains fragile. The one who bears them becomes indestructible. Practically, this means assuming control over your choices, your words, your commitments. The disciplined warrior does not hide behind excuses. He carries his armor in silence, knowing that each piece, however heavy, makes him more resistant to the blows of the world. The metaphor is clear. The armor is heavy, but it saves lives. Without it, the warrior is exposed. With it, even when wounded, he stands. Your invisible armor is forged by every promise you keep to yourself. Musashi wrote, "The way of the warrior is the resolute acceptance of death." This is not morbid obsession, but clarity. He who accepts death loses fear, and the man without fear becomes unshakable. To awaken the strongest version of yourself, you must walk daily with the awareness of finitude. The weak cling desperately to comfort, fearing loss, fearing the end. The strong accept that everything passes, and precisely because of that, they live with intensity and courage. Death does not steal meaning. It gives it. Each day becomes a battlefield. Each gesture, an unrepeatable act. In practice, this means acting without procrastination, speaking what must be spoken, doing what must be done. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. The warrior knows this. That is why his presence is total, his actions precise, his mind unshaken. The image is a cherry blossom which blooms intensely and falls quickly. Its beauty lies in its brevity. The warrior who accepts death as teacher blooms fully in life, becoming so strong that his presence alone unsettles those who live half asleep. The path of Musashi teaches that the strongest version of yourself is not found in applause nor in comfort, but in discipline so extreme that it frightens the ordinary. Silence, fire, solitude, responsibility, and death. Each one a forge, each one a blade that sharpens you. You awaken the samurai within not by imitating gestures of the past, but by embodying the timeless truths Musashi revealed. Master yourself, strip away illusions, endure solitude, carry your invisible armor, and accept death without fear. Then you will not only be strong, you will be unshakable. The world may call you insane, eccentric, or obsessed, but deep down, it is fear speaking, the fear of those who never dared to awaken. For when a man creates a mind so strong unsettles others, he becomes something rare, a living sword, a silent force, a presence that no storm can bend.